What's going on, everybody? Ran across this video, figured it'd be perfect for a reaction considering I've got some experience in this area. Toyota CEO releases, they've got a water-powered engine. Chances are, I haven't watched the video yet, but chances are they're talking about a hydrogen engine. This is something that has been tried in the past. We do have hydrogen engines out there. There is hydrogen-powered cars out there already. The government really doesn't like them because of the boom factor. Their idea of hydrogen power and my idea of hydrogen power are two totally different ideas. When I started playing with HHO generators and the brown gas generators and stuff, I quickly learned that the stronger the container, the bigger the boom factor. So personally, when I do my HHO generators, I use stuff like really thin bottles, cheese ball containers with soft plastic sides. You don't need a lot of pressure in an HHO setup, especially if you're trying to run an engine. You don't need a lot of pressure. You don't need a lot of volume. A little bit goes a long way with an internal combustion engine. Now, there was a guy back in the 70s that turned around, and actually there was a couple of guys. One guy converted a dune buggy into a water-powered car. Another guy turned around and converted a Camaro, 78, 79 Camaro, into a water-powered car. Now, these guys went about it two different ways. The guy with the Camaro, this guy turned around and he converted his DC spark in his engine to an AC spark by putting a ground strap under the spark plug, having an AC-DC converter in line with the ignition. So he converted the DC spark to an AC spark, shot water through the carburetor into the combustion chamber. The AC spark split the molecules, fired the oxygen and the hydrogen. After the split, the car ran on 100%, put water in the gas tank, turnkey, car fire. The state government shut him down, said he couldn't do it anymore. Something about the type of engine that he was creating was illegal. Fission, fusion, something. This is where I'm not that scientifically brainy to know. I just build shit. So I'm really curious to see what Toyota's come up with their water-powered engine. This will definitely be interesting. It might be a game changer. It might be a joke. I see it as a game changer. The EV run is a joke. The EV thing is a joke. It's absolutely a joke. The winter has shown batteries can't handle the cold. They can't handle extreme heats. There's problems. Running your car on a battery, bad idea. Battery to control lights and use as a buffer to run electronics, that's one thing. Run your car? No, bad idea. There's other alternative fuel sources out there that we can use that's not oil-based. We've got propane. Cities running vehicles on propane. That's a good start. It's natural gas. People say natural gas will run out. Any resource that is a consumable will run out over time. Is it 1,000 years? Is it 1,000,000 years? Who knows? Does it keep recycling itself? That's the opportune thing to do. What I've learned with the HHO vehicles is if you put a water box in the exhaust, the majority of the water that is in the exhaust after the combustion cycle can be trapped and recycled. So one tank of fuel with a recycled water exhaust can go a really, really long ways. So let's see what Toyota's got to say.
EVs are about to become a thing of the past, courtesy of Toyota's all-new engine type, which is completely unheard of. This new engine that Toyota has been working on is said to be the most eco-friendly engine in existence. So buckle up and get ready for a complete turnaround in the world of cars as we explore Toyota's new engine that will destroy the entire EV industry. The engine that Toyota is working on is actually, believe it or not, a water-powered engine, which is relatively similar to their FCEVs, such as the Toyota Mirai, and hydrogen-powered internal combustion engines, such as
hydrogen-powered. See, Toyota's already got hydrogen-powered, so now I'm really curious to see what this water-powered is. It's not hydrogen powered. This is new. This is good. This is very good.
The 1.6 hydrogen 3-cylinder that they've recently developed. As for the history, water engines have always been one of the greatest aspiration points of the entire car industry, as they promise huge benefits over regular engines and EVs. And there have been countless attempts at making water-powered engines viable and reliable for day-to-day usage to no avail. And, well, that's exactly where Toyota is about to jump in with their all-new water engine, as unlike most of the previous attempts, which were literally been made in sheds with limited budgets, Toyota has proper funding and can actually test out the engine in all possible conditions. How does the water
including
engine
race
actually
conditions
function? The engine itself is, for all intents and purposes, similar to the HHO generator, with only a few minor differences that make it better suited for daily usage in vehicles. The engine itself is actually very similar to the hydrogen combustion engine found in the Toyota Yaris GR-H2, except that instead of using already processed hydrogen, the engine itself processes it and separates hydrogen from oxygen by creating a chemical reaction. In essence, the engine uses the process of electrolysis to separate the H2O molecules. Hydrogen and oxygen get separated once the electrodes, which are located in the tank that contains the water, start emitting high voltages. Since the hydrogen itself is contained within the water when it's stored in the tank, there's no reason for heavily armored and extremely heavy tanks, which is the case with FCEVs and hydrogen combustion engines, since hydrogen alone is extremely hard to contain.
Yes, hydrogen is extremely boom factor. So they've got to be really, really careful with those. This is really neat because this is kind of what I've been talking about and trying to work on, is something that converts it instantly and it uses it. So there's no real storage tank. Highly possible. Toyota has the budget to refine it. This is amazing. This will change the face of things because we get to keep the engines. All the gearheads are crying about the EVs. I want the vroom vroom. I need my engine. I need my engine. You get to keep the engine this way. And if you put it through a water box in your exhaust, you can reclaim a lot of the water. Let's see if Toyota's figured that one out. Somebody better have. They got a lot of high-paid engineers over there.
The process of powering the vehicle is where the similarities between hydrogen combustion engines and water engines start, as after it gets separated from oxygen, hydrogen is then sent to the engine, where it combusts similarly to compressed natural gas, and the overall way the engine itself functions is similar to CNG-powered ones. The fuel injectors need to be adapted for compressed gas, and the cylinder heads, pistons, and valves need to be armored, as hydrogen itself is highly combustible, making its detonation quite meaty, which is why it needs stronger components. What are the long-term benefits to the environment?
Now, needing stronger components, yes and no. It's a cleaner burn. There's no carbon output. We're already running titanium valves and hardened seats in stuff like the 450 dirt bike engines. Sport bikes are running high performance stuff. Honda's already got the technology. Toyota needs to get with Honda if they're looking for stronger stuff. Either that or Toyota just needs to go with Honda's vendors when it comes to valves, and they should be good to go.
Well, first of all, it's almost completely zero emissions compared to regular internal combustion engines, similar to EVs, while also being far more convenient than EVs. Actually, scrap that. It's more convenient than any other engine type out there, as long as you have access to diluted water.
Fully
you'll be
agree.
able to refuel it, and it'll also cost you next to nothing. Also, there will be much less need for extracting oil, as if the engine goes mainstream, the only real branch of the entire industry where fossil fuels might be used is heavy machinery or large power production units. Furthermore,
crude oil is used in plastic production. It is used to lubricate machines in most kinds of production, be it textiles, rubbers, steels, metals. It doesn't matter. Crude oil is needed in production. It's in your lipsticks, it's in your makeups, it's in all kinds of stuff. So yes, we won't need it for fuel purposes, but we still need it for lubrication purposes. So don't let them fool you that we won't need to be drilling for oil if we don't have cars or trucks on the road, because we're still going to need crude oil for production purposes, be it food production, clothing, household goods, construction goods, vehicles. It's needed. You can't really get away from it. Just use less of it.
There will be no need for extracting rare metals from the earth, which is one of the dirtiest processes in the entire car industry at the moment, as it directly pollutes both the water sources and the soil surrounding the mine, making its imminent surrounding area completely uninhabitable. Also, if we were to compare water engines to hydrogen combustion engines and FCEVs, which are also marketed as zero emissions, we could see that they are far superior in this regard too, as storing water requires little to no effort, whereas storing hydrogen alone requires much more thought, specific conditions, and above all, much more money, while also being significantly more harmful to the environment.
High-pressure containers.
Hydrogen in its sole form is a gas that is extremely hard to contain and can easily escape from the tank of a vehicle if there are any sort of irregularity with it, which means that the tanks will need to be armored, constantly monitored, and regularly taken care of, whereas the fuel tank for water-powered vehicles can, hypothetically, be virtually any plastic container. Furthermore, storing hydrogen outside of the car itself is a drag too, as it requires ideal temperature conditions, similarly need to be completely static and completely indestructible, which once again costs a lot of money, whereas distilled water can be bought in any well-stocked supermarket, or if you know basic chemistry, can actually be produced at home. Also, acquiring hydrogen in its sole form is also an expensive process, and it, combined with the numerous problems that surround the storage of the gas itself, is the reason why hydrogen hasn't yet caught on, and probably never will. Producing and storing hydrogen costs a lot of money, which in turn raises the price of the gas itself for the consumer, making us question, why would you even buy hydrogen cars if they both are more expensive to buy and run compared to EVs and fossil-fueled vehicles?
Because it's
even though they're very green and logistically simple to use and run in theory, the question remains, are water engines actually daily usable? Yes, they are. First of all, they're not gutless at all, as some might believe, as a
good
water
horsepower
engine
output
is on par with most gasoline engines. And in theory, they can be made more powerful than regular internal combustion engines, as they can generate up to 3 times more megajoules of energy compared to gasoline engines. They're also much safer than all the other engine types, as no highly combustible fuels constantly being stored inside of the car, so there's no need to worry about the car going up in flames, or even exploding like fireworks going wrong. They are all...
I mean, yeah, completely. If you're just storing water in the car, then the boom factor is extremely minuscule because there's no gasoline, there's nothing for a boom factor. If the fuel is getting converted in a converter and going straight to the engine, the only boom factor is in that line. It's probably got a one-way valve in it. The injectors are designed for it. So this is a win-win. This is a super win. Because the horsepower outputs of these kinds of engines, a hydrogen, oxygen engine, can produce a lot more horsepower than a gasoline engine all day long. It's the numbers have already been proven, so you want to see those, Google that.
Also very easy to produce, as their relatively simple mechanical designs are just a tad more complicated than regular gasoline engines. They're much simpler and cheaper to produce than both EVs and FCEVs, and due to their nature, they would be a perfect option for motorizing countries that aren't well developed and are not rich with oil. In fact, for this reason alone, an Iranian scientist decided to convert his Peugeot 405 to run on water and actually succeeded at doing so. The scientist Aladdin Qasemi managed to produce a fully functional conversion for his old car and turned it into a true technological marvel. Imagine what Toyota could do with proper funding if a man in a shed could make a daily drivable water-powered car. Apart from being easy to produce,
it's that simple.
Water-powered engines are also extremely economical compared to both gas-powered vehicles and EVs, as Qasemi's own 405 averaged between 30 and 40 miles per gallon of water, which is just fantastic because the base petrol engine used in the car could never achieve such high figures. This means that we can hypothetically see water-powered engines that can do 80 plus miles to the gallon without being completely gutless, which makes the cost of running such cars even
80 plus miles to the gallon. That's an underestimate, seeing as how in the 60s and 50s we had carburetors that could get 100 miles to the gallon. Although the fuel industry buried them, they were there. Fuel injection units and everything, yes, they can easily get 100 miles to the gallon out of these things. With an exhaust recycling system in it, they probably get 150, if not more, miles to the gallon. Fuel consumption will come down massively. Massively. This is... love it. Absolutely love it.
Lower than what we initially believed it to be. However, since there were no mainstream versions of the engine type, and since there are no other car manufacturers that are actively working on this engine type, we've got to ask ourselves, are water engines the future? Well, hypothetically, yes. Water engines might just be the future of vehicles. However, the conclusion is not that simple, as there are a myriad of issues that water engines have been experiencing in the past. First of all are the logistical issues. Although the infrastructure would need little to no adjustments, the engine technology is still highly experimental, and most of the quote-unquote functional prototypes have been very unreliable, and their daily usability has been mediocre at best. Furthermore, even though using water as a fuel might seem like a good way to go, the fact that it gets divided into hydrogen and oxygen makes us question the safety of the car itself. As we've already mentioned, hydrogen is extremely hard to contain, and even a small leakage in the system can turn out highly dangerous and even fatal. Plus, even if Toyota were to make a reliable and safe water-powered car, who's to say that they wouldn't get shut down by lithium mining companies, battery producers, and most notably, oil companies? By using water as a fuel, we'd almost completely mitigate the usage of fossil fuels in day-to-day life, and there would also be little need for mining rare and expensive elements such as cobalt and lithium, which would seriously shake and even destroy some of the most profitable companies in the world currently, such as...
The automotive industry is not... It might be pushing the battery industry, but come on, man, it's not going to really screw up the cobalt and lithium mining that much. Phone technology and battery technology still needs to get better. We're working on solar systems and wind systems. Those systems use batteries and stuff like that to contain the juice that's made. Don't act like they're all going to shut down overnight if we stop producing EVs. EVs haven't been out that long. That's it. Try again. Next. Keep playing.
Rio Tinto, and those companies will definitely do everything that's in their power to completely discourage further development of such engines.
Those industries will fight back against the engine industry, but this is Toyota. Toyota is huge.
Ever officially fully functioning water-powered car.
There it is.
The inventor of the car, Stanley Allen Meyer, was, according to him and his brother, in constant danger and was receiving constant threats from people that were most likely representatives of oil companies that could have been jeopardized by the popularization of the water
government.
engine. He was even offered millions to destroy his vehicle and the plans surrounding it and never mentioned it again. However, Meyer was a stubborn person that kept vocally fighting large oil conglomerates. One night, while at dinner with two Belgian businessmen that showed interest, Meyer suddenly ran out of the restaurant while holding his throat. His brother, who was present at the time, ran out after him. He later told the press that Stanley told him that the businessman poisoned him, after which he passed away. Official records say that the reason behind his passing is actually a brain aneurysm. However, the topic is still disputed to this day, as only a few days after his unfortunate
and Epstein hung
his
himself.
car, along with the plans on how to make the engine, have been stolen from his garage, never to be seen again. So,
they were on the internet.
Love to see Toyota actually going through with this engine, we're not sure that
they
that's
were on
going
the
to
internet
happen anytime soon, if ever. And even if they were actually working on the engine, they're most likely doing so in absolute secrecy, which is why there are still no official confirmations on the project itself.
This is crazy because, I mean, he brings up good points in the end. Will Toyota be able to push this out into the industry? Anybody that's tried has gone to sleep in their Cheerios. We had a guy down in Clearwater that made a hydrogen-powered torch. It ran a gas-powered engine that ran a generator and a torch, and he just poured water in it. Well, his daughter found him in his Cheerios sleeping. They tried to pay her to destroy all the plans. She started running with the plans. She, shortly after that, I think, ended up sleeping in her Cheerios. It's a fine line in a dangerous world, but it needs to change, and water-powered cars can by all means be the future. The little box that it takes is not that hard to make. It's just some diodes and resistors. You're changing a DC spark to an AC spark. These guys did it. Well, Meyer did it in a Vita bug engine. Somebody else did it in a small block 350. The engines don't technically need crazy modifications, but if you're going to do it, you might as well have water resistant, corrosion resistant things like titanium plated valves and hardened valve seats that aren't going to rust. Maybe titanium plated seats. Aluminum, the heads, the block, all that stuff is good. Doesn't really need any modifications. The hydrogen boom factor is a lot bigger than a gasoline boom factor, so you need a lot less of it. This is all stuff that I've been playing with for over 15 years. I'm not shooting from the hip. This is stuff that I've personally experimented with and seen. Y'all have a great day. I hope you really liked the video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this kind of stuff. If you're not subscribed, why not? See you in the next video.